Big tech censorship and double standards are something that we are all too familiar with in the culture today, in the media, and even in our government. On this episode, I'm going to share with you an interview that I did with Matthew Thayer, who is the director of the documentary The Trump I Know. This film destroys the mainstream narrative about Donald Trump and reveals the truth about him from the women who are closest to him. We talk about this documentary and how it was censored, and we talk about the real agenda behind what's going on with this censorship and how they're re-releasing it. And there's an event coming up very soon this month in August 2023 that you can participate in. We're going to show you how you can access that, and you're just going to really enjoy this interview. It's very exciting. I'm going to start it out with a trailer, and then we're going to get right into it. Matthew Thayer is a returning guest. He has been on this show, Cutting Edge Faith, 2 times before. First, we talked about mega changes in Hollywood and Christian media, and the second time we talked about the biblical roots of a thriving society. I'll put the links to those other episodes that we did together in the show notes. If you're listening to the audio-only version of this and you want to watch the video, just find the link in the show notes. Let's have a look at this trailer and then dive right in to the interview with the director, Matthew Thayer.
The president's my friend. Have you ever met him? Do you know him? Then how can you speak of him if you actually don't know the man?
I knew that he was going to run and be president. I said, I hate to see what you would go through, but our nation will need it.
I think he knew we were at such a pivotal point in our country that somebody had to stand up and do the right thing.
Some of the smartest, most talented women that I have seen are people who work for or around President Trump.
God has plans for people's lives, and he put me in this place, in this moment, for a reason and for a purpose.
And who here is ready for 4 more years of Donald Trump?
It's good to be tolerant. That's a virtue, but not when it turns into the destruction of what is good.
Now they're going to come after us. They're not going to make it easy.
He's a bigot.
A liar.
A serial liar. He's a narcissist.
Politics is a nasty business.
Trump is a weak man with no courage.
Wow, was he right on that, right? Oh my gosh.
I'm a black single mother coming from poverty, but what Donald Trump saw in me was potential.
All very just impressive women. It's awesome to see him. My father's really surrounded himself by them his entire life.
And this is where President Trump has taught us, is you fight back, you push back.
When I showed up at Trump Tower, I met a whole bunch of powerful women.
He gave me the opportunity of a lifetime, and that is the Donald Trump that I know.
Well, Matt, it is great to have you back on Cutting Edge Faith. Welcome.
Yeah, Ryan, good to see you again, my friend.
Yeah, you know, you're very popular on this podcast, so we've had a lot of downloads, and I'm excited to hopefully break some records with this one.
Yes.
And we're talking about a film that you helped put together back in 2020, and this is recirculating, and big tech censorship is a big part of this. We all know, I mean, I've talked a lot about that on this show, and we've talked about that here. I've had others on to talk about it as well. But it's the Trump I Know, and everybody watching this saw the trailer already. But maybe tell us a little bit about this film, and then we're going to get into big tech censorship and what's really going on and why it's so important that everybody get out there and support this film. So tell us a little bit about the film. Get started here.
Yeah, and if I might, I'm just going to go ahead and drop in. If you go to ttikfilm.com, that's ttikfilm.com. You can be a part of a massive relaunch of this film on August 27th. It's going to be a virtual and an in-person red carpet rally. And we're going to be broadcasting live from Las Vegas. But anybody, anywhere can participate in the event. It's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be like being live with you right now. Like we're going to be, you actually can watch the film. You can, it's one of those big 360 LED walls. There's like, everybody's going to have like little pictures, like you're on your Zoom, and it's going to be like surrounded by a virtual audience. There will be people, and there is an option to come in person, but those seats are very limited because it's a smaller venue. About 300 people can be in attendance, but like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people can participate in the event. And what we're trying to do is, with everything that's going on with President Trump right now, is just create a rally point, of support, for him. And so Laurel Trump will be in attendance and with us, and we're working on some other very special guests as well. But anyway, back to your question. What was going on? We created the film. It was kind of an amazing process. It kind of got dropped in our lap. We had to create it in 3 months. And I can speak to, share this kind of stuff with your audience. We are always very much about bringing God into our projects and bringing the Holy Spirit into, whatever it is that we're doing and asking him for guidance. And so our entire team was Christians. We actually took communion most nights together as we were processing through, because this was one of those things where we didn't know how this was going to turn out. It was kind of a wildlife documentary of sorts. It's like, we're just going to get some cameras. We're going to go out into the wilds of the swamp. And we're going to see if maybe the big lion will show up. I mean, who knows, and then we'll just get Richard Attenborough to narrate it at the end and, call it, Planet Earth, the swamp. But anyway, but at the end of the day, it was really, really cool to see how everything coalesced and came together. And I really attribute that to the Holy Spirit and God's guidance and wisdom, because there were times where I was waking up in the middle of the night with ideas. There were problems that I would go to bed with, just laying before the Lord, and he would wake me up and say, here's how you solve the problem. Anyway, so that was kind of the process of making the film. I could go into a lot more details, but we want to get to some other things. And then when we dropped the film, when we released the film, we were intending for it to be released before the 2020 election. And big tech just squash. Well, I mean, they were squashing a lot of people at that point. I mean, it was October 2020, which is, kind of the red October, really. You know what I mean? It was just kind of a bloodbath online where people's accounts were being vaporized. And the crazy thing about our documentary, and the reason why I think it's so troubling that it was censored and slow rolled so heavily, was because we didn't attack anybody. We didn't attack Biden. We didn't attack the Democrats. I mean, I think at one point we poked a little fun at Nancy Pelosi, but I mean, I think she's kind of like a low-lying fruit there. But
tripping over that fruit.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, but we really tried to stay pretty highbrow, and take the high road and really just share mostly these women that had been pointed to positions around President Trump within his administration, his campaign, his family. And these were all women that had been interviewed previously by the New York Times, by WAPO, by other major news outlets. And they would constantly bemoan that anything that they shared positive about the president was constantly, they either were not quoted, they weren't even brought up. They would dig around until they found somebody that had maybe some kind of something bad, and then they would run with that. And even that person would say, well, they took that out of context. And so when we released the film, ironically, the other thing that was kind of funny was that we actually did the premiere of the film at the Trump Hotel in DC. And awesome. It happened on the night that the president got COVID, which was, so it was like, it was just everything overshadowed what we were trying to get out there for one thing or another. But Amazon slow rolled us through the process. iTunes slow rolled us through the process. And the film never actually got out to the public until after the election. And so, and then, just kind of got, kind of lost. And so we've been out there pushing it out there. And I'm surprised at how many people still have not seen this film. And I'm really proud of it. I think it's extraordinarily well done. A lot of people have given us high praise for it. And so this, like I said, this August 27th, we're doing a complete re-release. We're going around big tech. We're going around big tech censorship. We've got an amazing team of people at this studio. This is the exact same studio that 2000 Mules would broadcast it from. So this is just a world-class team that it believes in the truth and believes that everybody's got a fair shake to get their information out there. And so they're helping us put this on, and it's already going gangbusters. I mean, it's just spreading all over truth like wildfire. And so we're really excited about it.
This is awesome. I mean, I want to, we can dive a little bit more into the censorship, but I mean, this film, I just got to put my high recommendation on this film. I mean, I've been following Trump for a long time. Obviously, not everybody loves everything about his past, but like when people complain about that, it's like 20-year-old things. And it's like, even then you see these women that you have seen these other interviews and you have seen them, all of this. And so it's like, we kind of go behind the curtain here, and it's like, there's like this gold mine of people who support Trump that are all painted. And these are all women. They're high power, important, women who are in Trump's circle. And like these interviews, you're like inside the house showing real life. It's not this like manufactured thing. Like kids are around. Like, I mean, it's just so authentic, and just the way it was done. And I just love how you said, you were led by the Spirit and him giving you solutions and these sorts of things. And it's just evident because it's just such a well done film. And I like how, the point is, there is a narrative that the media and most of the establishment wants people to know about Trump, and he is a threat to all of that. And so this film gives you the reality, gives you the real picture of that. And I think what's so neat is it's bigger than Trump, even though the film is called literally The Trump I Know. But what it demonstrates is something bigger, where if you juxtapose what the media is saying and what the establishment is saying to what this film will show you out of the mouths of individuals who are this authentic picture, and you juxtapose that on top of each other, it's like, wow, you just see through the lies so clearly, and now you can see through other things as well. So it sort of exposes the real agenda, and now you're thinking differently. You've got a new set of lenses to look through. And so what go ahead.
Well, I would thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And just a couple of quick notes on that was, like I was saying before, I mean, we went into this documentary, we all we knew was Laura Trump, and Laura just opened up her home to us. We had an idea to tell this story, and she was going to open up these other doors. And then we just kind of went on this journey to just figure out how we were going to tell this story. So it was very, like I said, wildlife documentary. And if anybody knows how, a wildlife documentary is created, it's like, you can't control animals. You just got to get out there and film something and then kind of cut something together and hope you can find a story. And so that's really kind of what we had. And so it was ironic, was one of the reviews that came in, was a 1-star review, and it's actually my favorite review of all time, because it says, "This was completely staged." And I'm like, wow, you think it was that good?
Clearly you did not watch the film, because
right.
That's
but it was like, I was like, wow, you thought it was that good,
right.
That I'm like, it wasn't staged.
That's a good point. That's
right?
a good point.
And then the other thing was interesting, was that a lot of the women came up to us afterwards and just with tears in their eyes and said, thank you for telling our story and actually getting it out there authentically. And so they were very, very appreciative of that. And and then to your point, I mean, the thing that this will kind of like get over, because we're going to talk about the censorship stuff, but this kind of like dovetails into that, is what really excited me as a director is, like you said, it's not really about, it's about Trump, but it's not about Trump. And people were kind of like, my team was like, well, who's the bad guy? And I'm like, we're the bad guy, because we've become a society that has degraded to the point where we are willing to take whatever somebody writes online about somebody and run with it as if it's the truth, instead of saying, you know what, I don't know enough about that person to actually have an opinion right now. And I really felt like Trump was kind of the poster child and the kind of the ultimate case study of that, because next to Jesus, he's probably the most famous human being alive. You know what I mean? And everybody knows. I mean, you people in the wilds of Africa, are like, oh yeah, Trump, and so right. And so everybody's got an opinion of him, but who actually knows him, and what does it mean to actually know a person? How do you know a person? And one of the ways to know a person is actually to, talk to the person, or second best, you can talk to people that know the person.
Right.
So that's where we were really trying to do, is like, how do we find people that actually know him? And have worked with him in a variety of different ways. And so anyway, but yeah, the tech censorship, once we got it out there, and that's what I think is remarkable, is that, our Twitter account, the Twitter account for the film, because, when you make a film, you make a Twitter account for the film. It happens for the Avengers. It does, all of the films. And so we made a Twitter account for the film, and the PR people that were helping us run that, they were just posting nice things about Trump. We weren't attacking anybody. It was just, pictures of him interacting favorably with women or people of color or whatever. And it got vaporized. Like, we just got torched. And you're like, wait a minute, hold on a second. We weren't even being nasty. We weren't even being negative. We were just being positive, and
yeah.
It's gone.
It violates the unwritten standard of supporting Trump. Like, that's what the issue, And I think that, you mentioned just people. I think that getting this resonating with people, and I think I really like the point you made about, shame on us for just taking people's words for things. If we learned nothing other in COVID, except that, maybe you should question what the media and the government are telling you. Maybe you should just go a level or two deeper and see if it lines up with everything else you know about reality and have experienced in life. If that is the only thing you got from COVID, like, praise God, because you're ahead of the game. And now you have, like I said, a new lens to look through. And I think that this film does such a good job of that. And so, could you we'll get into the censorship a little more, but what resonates with people? We've kind of touched on it here, but what's some feedback you've gotten from some of the audience? You've gotten a lot of good feedback from me and my wife, and but what are some of the things that you're hearing coming out of viewing this film?
Well, actually, I had a couple of people that work for me that were of other opinions, and they worked in our office, and I don't know exactly if their political affiliation, but I know that they weren't supporters of the president, and they came out of the film and were kind of shell-shocked a little bit. They were like, you showed us something that we hadn't seen before. And so it really caused people to pause a little bit. And so that's what was really encouraging, is that if you can put this in front of Democrats, and I think especially right now, because there's a lot of people out there that are really starting to scratch their heads. They may not support Trump, but they're starting to see what's going. They're starting to go, wait, hold on a second. Like, third indictment, like what is going on here? Like, things don't even make sense. The indictments are laughable.
Yeah.
The conspiracy against rights. I don't even know, if you want to go there, like, we could just slap a lot of people in DC and over history with that charge.
Yeah. Legitimately, but
legitimately. And so people are starting to see this, scratch their head. I've even seen, people share videos of people on TikTok or, Instagram, kind of just getting in front of their followers going like, you know what, I'm not really a supporter of Trump, but like, this is kind of nonsense. And so that's really, to me, the opportune time for a film like this to come out, because, because if you can put this in front of people like that and say, okay, look, that I'm a supporter of the president. I've been a supporter of the president, but watch this film. Watch this film.
Yeah.
And I understand that it was made in 2020, and there's a lot that's happened since. But I think one of the other things that I've been encouraging people is watch it still, because what we've done is we cover and chronicle, a lot of his history in the past, and also what he went through in 2016, and a little bit of what he went through leading up to the 2020 election. And because the news cycle is so voracious, we have a tendency to forget, and we need to be reminded. We constantly need to be reminded. It says in the Bible, remember, remember, remember. And one of the reasons why we need to remember is not just because God's awesome and we need to put those stones of remembrance for all of the things that he's done and bless him for what he's done. But the devil, he actually, all of his tricks, he has no new tricks. All of his tricks.
That's right.
Right. The only way that he gets to trick us again is if we forget. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's the only way that his tricks work. And so we have to constantly be in this place. That's why I'm such an advocate for history, is that you have to constantly be looking back and saying, like, what happened in the past? How can we learn from that? How can we learn from even the mistakes? How can we learn from the successes and move forward? Because I understand that our battle's not against flesh and blood. It's against the principalities and the powers of the air. And so if those principalities and powers of the air, if I learn their tricks, they don't work on me anymore.
Yeah, and this, I would consider this an evergreen film. I mean, because it's not a film that was only relevant for one election or two elections or three. What this does is it uses what happened and it reveals something about Trump. It reveals his character. It reveals how he handles things. It reveals how he sees people, how he appoints people, how he chooses who to work with, and how he's got more women in his organization, or had more women in his organization than anybody else in history. And he was the first person to appoint women at his companies, when it was like not what people did. And so I think it shows that about him, but also, like I said, it shows the contrast between the narrative in the mainstream and the reality. And so
and I think that one of the points I think would be relevant right here is that, for example, Paula White is a pastor down in Orlando, and she's a wonderful woman. Really enjoyed getting to know her, and she is Trump's, Trump calls her his pastor. And so when I saw that, I was like, wait, hold on a second, how can a misogynist call a woman his pastor? I mean, that just doesn't happen.
That's right.
Right. I mean, I've seen misogyny in the church, and it just doesn't happen, regardless of what you think of females in the role of pastor. The fact that a man is saying, no, she's somebody that I take spiritual, guidance for, and I ask her to pray for me and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, just
that says something.
The humble approach to that. I mean,
right.
The value of a woman's direction or guidance or thoughts or opinion or input at all. I mean,
totally
that's fantastic.
Right. And then the other thing was really fascinating when she shared, and we shared this there was so much that she shared in her interview. I wish I could have just put her whole entire interview in the film, but one of the things that and actually it was one of the things that we're going to do at the event, we're actually going to play some clips that we couldn't include in the film. So it's going to be some unseen footage and some things which we think are just really cool. So again, if you want to be a part of that, go to ttikfilm.com. And it's like, if you want to be in attendance, we welcome you. It'd be awesome. Come to Vegas, join us. You're going to be able to meet some people, but then also, for $25, I mean, you get to be online. You can invite friends over, make a watch party out of it. And it's going to be like a 4-hour event. We're going to watch the film. We're going to have guests. We're going to have Q&A. It's going to be this really kind of cool interactive experience. It's going to be really, really neat. Anyway, but one of the cool things about Paula, if I go back to that, is that she said, and we said this in the film, she's like, this was in 2012. She was asked by President Trump to come over and pray for him because he was thinking about running for president back in 2011. And so she went over there and prayed. She got some people to come over and pray. And she said it wasn't like this, like, oh, I'm going to show off kind of prayer. Like he was in the room and like sitting there with his head bowed for about 6 out of the 8 hours.
That's
praying.
That's right. I forgot about that. That's in the film, and it's very touching how they share it. I mean,
and then what she said was when he called her the next day and said, "Hey, what do you think God's saying?" Which is again extraordinary. I mean, the man calling up and saying, "I'm not just hearing from God myself. I want to know what you're picking up." She says it's not the time, but she knew at that time that he was going to run and be president. She told him so, and she said, and I hate to see what you're going to go through, but our nation will need it. This was in 2011. This was over 10 years ago. This woman prophesied into the president's life, saying, not only are you going to be president, but I hate to see what you're going to go through. Look at what he's going through right now. I mean, it's just extraordinary.
Yeah, and I think this. I mean, I'm glad you shared about the people who were maybe not supporters of Trump or maybe even against Trump that watched this film that were just like, now they're scratching their head like, wow, well, this is like kind of surprising, and that means that the film is done in a way that's not clear propaganda shoving it down your throat. It's done in a way that just is revealing the reality.
Well, the thing is I didn't vote for President Trump in 2016. And a lot of people assume that I've just been an ardent Trump supporter the entire time. And no, I didn't vote for, I prefer to be considered a libertarian. I am very much, middle of the road. I don't agree with Republicans on a lot of things, and I don't agree with Democrats on a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like my philosophy. But when in 2016, I didn't vote for Hillary. I mean, there are other options. I mean, I voted third party, but
I'm glad we cleared that up for our listeners here.
Yeah, that's what's so sad, is that people just automatically assume, well, you didn't vote for Trump, you voted for Hillary. No.
Well,
But what I thought was what was amazing was I really drew from that when we were creating the film, was how, like, weaving my experience of kind of coming to the light of what I was experiencing, which was I listened to a bunch of crap, if I can say that word, from the mainstream media, and I bought into it. And I feel like I'm a questioning person. I grew up believing that the media was full of garbage, and I still believed it. And I succumbed to it. And then when I finally started listening to him actually do his own press conferences and actually listening to his full speeches instead of the little clips and things like that the media would pull out and spin, I started going, oh, wow, okay, I really appreciate what he's saying.
Yeah.
This guy is actually really intelligent. And just because he speaks a little more colloquially doesn't mean he's not intelligent, because what he's taking high concepts and bringing it down for the common man to be able to understand. That's super smart. Like, to be able to do that, when Obama, anybody can be like Obama and learn a bunch of fancy words and just, just throw out a word salad.
Parrot them out. Yeah.
Right. And throw out a word salad that everybody's like, ooh, oh, he sounds so pretty. But when you actually break down what he's saying, he's not really saying much, and I'm not really getting anything out of it.
No.
Where Trump will actually just come out and just, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I walk away going, I think I understand international trade.
Yeah, and he does it. That's a great point, because he breaks it down in such a clear way. And like, he'll literally, like, my dad and I talk about a lot of this stuff, and he'll literally, it's like he was listening to our conversation, and it's like he's having a conversation with us, just the way he talks about things. I mean, and so you can understand it. And so, but I think people should be convinced to watch the film by now, if not, if they weren't already. So let's dive into some of the censorship and this double standard and some of this, because I think what this really is important is we're going away from this sort of one mainstream narrative, one mainstream place to get news, and people have realized it's broken. Like, we can't trust it, and now they've shown it over and over and over. And my wife and I were, praise God, that God showed us a lot of these agendas and things before COVID. And so when COVID happened, we just saw it like it was painting on the wall next to us. It was just obvious. And so now people's eyes are open and they're seeing this. And so we're going more toward this networked society where people are getting media from places they can trust, like here, and from you, and these different things. So let's dive into that double standard, that censorship, what you experienced.
Well, what's funny is I don't even know, because I'm getting an alert right now from my team, because we're in the process of putting out this film, that our website is getting blocked. This is literally just came in right now. Our website is getting blocked. ttikfilm.com, which you can go to get tickets to see this event, is literally getting blocked. And it's right now. Yeah. While we're recording this. I mean, this just happened. It's the first time I've seen it. So it's crazy. And what's
well, fortunately, nuts, I'm able to reach it, so you should be able to go there. So make sure you go check it out. Well, that's an indication that you need to get your tickets right now before.
Right. Well, but also, but I think it's just getting blocked on social medias and things like that. You know what I mean? So, like, I mean, it's just crazy. But anyway, but you have to ask yourself why. Okay, why is it? I think there's screenshots. There's screenshots that we shared with you guys. That my wife took of when Facebook took down our hoodies, and our t-shirts, okay, for violating their policies, okay, and it's literally just the logo of the film. It just says "The Trump I Know." You can look at it, you can see it's the logo. It's just the logo of the film on the t-shirt. And we went back and we wrote it back and we said, "Hey, we don't." think this is, and they said, no, it's violating our policies because it might be the buying and selling of the buying and selling of live animals or alcohol. And so, actually, Facebook did us a favor. I had absolutely no idea that our hoodies and t-shirts were made out of live puppies and filled with wine. But I'm so glad that they told us, because we wouldn't have known otherwise.
Check your sourcing. Yeah, man, that's the
but you have to ask yourself again, our Instagram was throttled, our Twitter was throttled. We took the same approach to social media that we took in the film. We did not attack anybody. We're not attacking anybody. We're just trying to tell the side of the story that the media is ignoring. That is it.
Yeah.
That's all we're doing. We're not poking fun at anybody. We're not slamming anybody. And like you said, it's an evergreen film in that way. And that was really one of the things that we also worked very hard to do, was to create an evergreen, just, this is just a testament to our times. Like, this is just something that hopefully posterity will go back and watch, because it was just created authentically, and it was created, as a piece to tell, another side of the story. And so, it's just fascinating to me that, we would even be attacked or marginalized.
Yeah, I think that kind of tells you everything you need to know. The fact that anybody would not want you to watch this film. And it's one thing to give a recommendation, I watched it, it's not worth your time, that sort of thing. That's one thing. But to sort of go to your mailbox and take your mail out of your mailbox, that's different, and not let you see it and actually block you from seeing it. And that is absolutely different. And so why is that? That? Because it doesn't work with the narrative. And so for that reason alone, people should just be clawing to go get and see this film.
Right. Exactly. And that's what is so exciting about what we're doing with ttikfilm.com and this event is it's basically it's the release that the film should have had. But unfortunately, the technology was not available at the time of the release. And necessity is the mother of invention. I mean, look at what's happened, because of the censorships. Now we have Rumble that's taken off. We've got Truth Social that's created. We've got, these options to be able to go around big tech censorship. And that's what happened in 1776. That's the exact same thing that happened. A lot of people don't realize how the Brits had kind of cornered the market on trade routes and were really creating some economic havoc within the colonies. And so they started creating their own manufacturing and stuff like that. You hear about people wearing homespun and things like that. Well, those were all politically motivated, basically reflections, like them taking a stand. Like, I'm not going to buy textiles. I'm not going to buy nice textiles and stuff like that from England. I'm going to, buy stuff from America. And so that's kind of where that came from. And one of the reasons why we actually outlasted the British in the 1776 was because we actually had built a manufacturing apparatus that we could rely on. Is one of the reasons why Benjamin Franklin was so confident that we could actually get through the war, even though it might take 10 years. And so, we're going through the similar thing now, where it's like we're seeing this information, conflict, war, whatever you want to call it. It really is. It's really this information war that we're going through, of battle of the narratives. And it's just that now it's not just armies and big heads of state that are in charge of that. It's like we the people are actually on the ground, creating documentaries, creating podcasts, creating, our own citizen journalists kind of stuff. And it's really opened up the playing field. And so now all of these new technologies, like I said, this cool new space where we get to broadcast the film at ttikfilm.com on August 27th, but then also Rumble and Truth and, all of these different other mechanisms. I mean, there's so many. I mean, we've had conversations with so many people that just necessity is the mother of invention of all these amazing new technologies.
Yeah, I think that, this is a fascinating parallel that maybe on another show we'll have to dive into about the things that were happening in 1776 from the mainstream and what was happening in response from we the people. And sort of it's like a technology version of that now. And that's just fascinating to me, and how and you had the God's guidance and obviously his hand over in America to be able to be able to win those battles and to be able to actually have independence. And so, and it's the same thing here. We need God's guidance. And that's really what I'm trying to do with this podcast, is to help people wake up, understand the times, know what's going on, like the sons of Issachar, so that they can know what to do, like the sons of Issachar did. And then you can seek the Lord, be led by the Spirit, and know what you should do. So if you understand the times, then you go to the Lord and do your part in advancing his kingdom on earth, representing God's interests, whatever table you're sitting at.
Right. Well, and that's a lot of people, because and to your point, it is about we the people. And what I tell people is, a lot of people have heard, there was a prophecy out there by Kim Clement that said that Trump would be a trumpet. I was actually in the room when Kim Clement uttered that in 2007.
I forgot about that.
I was in the room.
Seriously. Wow.
And when I heard that, a lot of people were like, "What? Like the Apprentice guy? Like what? Okay, whatever." And but this is the thing, is that when people see what Trump has gone through, and they're like, "Well, I thought he was, he didn't make a second term. I thought he was, God's trumpet," kind of a thing. It's like, well, yeah, what does a trumpet do?
Right.
Calls the army.
Exactly. Calls attention, calls the army. And he's done more.
He's done that
to do that. I mean, that's what. What's it in Cyrus? I mean, Cyrus. I mean, that's what he's prophesied too about, like that. That's what Cyrus did in is it Isaiah 45?
Yep. And so then you have, and especially they said these indictments, and he's just a lightning rod for this corruption to be exposed.
Yeah.
Because these people up at the top have absconded our justice apparatus and have used it for lawfare. And if those of you don't understand what lawfare means, it basically means warfare. So it's lawfare. It's like it's I'm going to sue you, and then I'm going to run you through the ringer to the point where you can't. I'm going to outlast you because I have more money and I have more lawyers, and
or public opinion.
Well, it's both, not even public opinion. It's just in the battle of the courts. It's just taking an army of lawyers and just lasting it. It's basically just resources, right? It's like I have enough resources to completely rake you over the coals, and then with that, there also is that added element of the court of public opinion, right? Where all of a sudden it's like people have been, again, going back to the whole social media thing that kind of inspired me with this film in the first place. It's like, raking people over the coals as if they're guilty before they've been proven innocent. And so many people, like, look at Kyle Rittenhouse. There's so many people, as another example, right? So many people that still think Kyle Rittenhouse is guilty and is a bad guy because social media said so.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean it doesn't matter that he was proven innocent.
Yeah. And
there's something very troubling about that to me in our society, that we have become a people that is willing to listen to opinions of people that we have that we think, oh, they're my friend on social media. They're not your friend on social media. You're connected to them in some sort of way, but you really don't know them, and they wouldn't know you if you walked in front of them. So why are you even valuing these people's opinions and placing that on a real person that actually was proven in a court of law to be innocent?
Yeah. Well,
it's just nonsense.
Yeah. And it's kind of like the message here is wake up, like wake up. Okay. And the thing is, people need to be ready to take a stand. Daniel, the law came out and said that he couldn't pray to his God. What did he do? Okay, I better secretly do that and find a way to go around that. Like, no, he went to his window and he prayed exactly the same way. And guess what? He had consequences for that. But God protected him. And like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they said, well, even if God doesn't save us, like, we're not going to bow to your image. So today we need to update our theology to say, God wants me to take a stand. God wants me to put something at risk, to trust his sovereignty, and you're seeing God's sovereignty with this film. Even like it could have looked hopeless and all this, but you knew God called you to do it. It could have looked hopeless when it was being shut down before, but now look at God's timing, bringing it back around, rallying the troops, calling the army, and people are way more ignited I mean, we were already excited 2016, and seeing
Right.
everything that was happening and everything being exposed. And now after 2020, it's like the fire is lit and it's go time, and everybody has to
Right.
do their part, whether it's sharing this film, whether it's attending, whether it's talking about it, whether it's willing to have somebody look at you differently or poorly or something, or unfriend you, or whoever cares.
Yeah.
Like, we need to have God as our audience, the one we need to please. That's what really matters. And that's the way we need to be. We need to update our approach to daily life with that.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, and people, going back to what you're saying, taking a stand for what's right and doing what's right regardless and all that sort of stuff. I mean, that's just what the Bible talks about, right? It's like we're supposed to be people that have courage. There isn't a single Bible story that anybody remembers that doesn't involve courage in some form or fashion. Right. It's somebody standing up, whether it be Esther. I mean, you got David in front of Goliath. You got, like you said, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Jehoshaphat, where it's like, all right, well, we're going to throw the worship team out in front of the army. You know what I mean? Like, look Jesus. I mean, like, look at Paul, Peter. I mean, everybody had to stand up against the beast system, because the beast system, is the devoid without God. I mean, it goes back to Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar thinking I'm more powerful and, I'm proud, and everything else gets reduced down to a beast. It's like, no. We have a higher calling, and our higher calling is to listen to God and what he says. And that's why we are the gates of heaven. We are the gates between heaven and earth. We are the ones, we are the touch point of the spiritual and the divine on earth. And we have been invited into this wonderful covenant relationship with Christ. And Christ said there will be sacrifices, and you have to kind of bear your cross, and because you're going up against a system that doesn't want to join in, right? And so, and this is the cool thing about, like, going back to Trump. Trump, a lot of people don't realize this, but Trump did not take a paycheck as president.
Right. Yeah.
He donated it back.
Yep.
And then the thing that also I found out just recently is that he's not allowing anybody to help him pay his legal fees. He's paying all of his own legal fees. If any money comes in to help him pay his legal fees, he puts that back towards people that are fighting similar battles and helping them pay their legal fees.
Wow. Well, and there's a verse that comes to mind about being above reproach.
Yep.
And I think that this is, Trump's not our pastor. He's not a spiritual leader, but
nope.
You would think that if he was as bad as everybody was saying, years ago they would have found what they needed to do what they needed to do, and they can't. So it's just keep making up these things, and like you said, these agendas are being exposed, and that's why I say in this podcast we're talking about the truth behind the headlines. This is the real picture. This is tying everything together. You can see the puzzle, and we have our eyes wide open. We're not sleepers. And we can know what's really going on, and then we can seek the Lord for what to do. And like you said, that takes courage. And it doesn't take perfect people either. God equips the called. It's not just calling the equipped. And so, or qualifies the called. And what else is that he, if there's a Goliath in your life, then there's got to be a David in you. And that's like, there's whatever it is that you're facing, we need to do our part. We need to do it close with the Lord. So,
right.
Well, what are some final thoughts as we wrap up here? I mean, what else do we need to know or talk about, or what other thoughts do you have?
No, I mean, I think we covered everything. It's just, awesome. We're just, super excited about this opportunity. It was just so awesome. This studio reached out to us and said, like, hey, let's partner up on this, get this out there. We've seen what you guys have gone through. We want to help you get this out there. And so, and again, I'm just really surprised at how many people have not seen the film, because, it has been out there, but it's just been buried. And so we're going to take it up to the highest peak of a digital mountain that we can find. And we're going to shout it out from the rooftops as far and wide as we can. And because people deserve to hear the whole story. I'm not saying you got to vote for the guy. I'm not saying that you got to like him. I'm just saying, if you're a thinking person, which I'm assuming that everybody that's listening to this would like to consider themselves a thinking person, take a moment and actually listen to another side of the story. Listen to it, grade it. If you don't agree with it, fine. leave a comment and say, yeah, I didn't really agree with this, or this was untrue, or whatever. That's totally fine. I really don't care. But at least be open. At least be open. There were people, unfortunately, in my life that, when I come back from making this documentary, I was thinking that they would be really intrigued to ask me, like, hey, what was it like to actually meet the president? What was he like in person? What was it like to talk to some of these women around him? And they just was like, oh, cool. That's such an amazing opportunity. Good for you. And they never asked any of those questions. And it felt like they were avoiding asking those questions. And that really puzzled me. It was just like, wait a minute, here's somebody that I consider a friend, consider somebody that, would be somebody that trusts my opinion on things. And then all of a sudden it's like, it doesn't matter my personal experience, doesn't matter what I went through. It really didn't matter. It didn't affect them at all. And that's just very troubling to me. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just encouraging everybody, go to ttikfilm.com, whether you're a supporter of the president or whether you're just curious and you're finding out, want to find out a little bit more, and join us on August 27th, because like I said, not only are we going to watch the film, but we're going to have guests with us in the audience, the Flyover Conservatives, who are our dear friends, David and Stacey Whitehead, who have an amazing podcast, an amazing show. They're going to be our MCs, and they're going to be helping and they're just so entertaining and so much fun, and really great with the audience and really great with guests. And so we're going to have some amazing guests there. And the audience, like I said, even if you're joining virtually, you're going to have the opportunity to submit questions, ask questions. You'll see other people watching online on the screen. You can go to the ttikfilm.com. That's the actual the picture is the actual stage. I mean, it's going to be a wild, cool show. And then we're going to be letting people know where they can find the film going forward at the event. We, like I said, we're going to make it in a place where people can find it easily and can watch it easily and share it easily, and get away from this big tech censorship.
Well said. Well, again, that's ttikfilm.com, ttikfilm.com. Make sure you go over there. And even if you're watching this after August 27th, you still need to see this film. And if you have already seen it, go see it again and share it with someone else and invite them to see it with you as well. Because like we said, this is about much bigger than just Trump. It's about this bigger picture of where things are going and how. Well,
and the event is going to be recorded and everything else. And so even if you're watching this, like you said, post August 27th, post the event, you can still go there. You can still pay to watch the whole broadcast. So it's going to be available after the fact as well. But we really are excited about, the actual event. If you can join us there, it's on a Sunday. It's going to be Sunday afternoon, early Sunday evening. So it's perfect. There's no football yet. There's going to be, it's going to be a time where people can gather with their families and they can watch it. It's appropriate for all ages. And really just, and then, like I said, we're really excited about the interaction. It's like we want people to be asking questions, to feel like they can interact, to let us know how they appreciate the president. What does the Trump do? What would happen if he was back in, the Trump I know would secure the borders. The Trump I know would bring energy independence. The Trump I know would protect women's sports. The Trump I know would end human trafficking. There's so many things that are happening right now that would come to a screeching halt if somebody was back in the executive that knew how to manage some of these things and actually bring some law and order.
Well said. Well, Matthew Thayer, director of The Trump I Know and many other great films, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been awesome, and I'm excited to get this out.
Yeah, dude. Thank you so much for having me on. Love you. Love your show. Love your audience. And thanks for everything.
And there was a Harvard study done of the president's first 100 days in office, and they found that he got historic negative coverage. Historic.
This is Trump world. Everybody in it is a liar.
It's really the beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end. All the walls closing in on him.
He's a bigot.
It is racist.
He's a narcissist.
He's always hated women.
The Trump family's a criminal enterprise.
I know we've said it over and over.
You think this is a tipping point?
And over and over.
It's all so sad.
The Trump I Know.
So make sure you go and check out this video. You're not going to want to miss it. And would you share this with a friend? Be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment below and let me know what you think about everything we talked about on this episode. Thanks for joining. God bless, and we'll see you in the next show.